The man who led West Africa to freedom. History Channel International travels the globe to let you experience the world before us. On March 6, 1957, Great Britain surrendered control of its prosperous Gold Coast colony to the men and women whose families had lived there for centuries. Thus was born the new nation of Ghana. The dreams of its people then fell on the shoulders of the new Prime Minister, Kwame Nkrumah. On a recent trip to Ghana, we discovered the mixed legacy left by this freedom fighter from the world before us.
Ghana was like a country under slavery because we were colonized by the British government. In those days, people who lived before the independence lived under pressure and they lived under dictatorship, and at the same time, like a slavery.
But Ghanaians were soon gaining solidarity and claiming more and more autonomy. In 1951, they elected Kwame Nkrumah to the central seat in their political assembly. He was in jail for nonviolent protest at the time. By 1960, he would be the first president of an independent African nation.
After the independence, the Ghanaians started having the joy within themselves that now Ghana is our motherland, so it's our home, and we can do anything we like in it.
I remember that the first educational policy, which introduced fee-free education at the primary level, brought out thousands and thousands of children. Factories sprang up all over Accra. All of a sudden, overnight, there were new class of industrial working people. People were earning wages for the first time in their lives.
It seemed for a moment as if everyone had won. All over West Africa, colonial governments were crumbling and Africans were taking control.
Nkrumah declared right from the independence that the independence of Ghana would be meaningless except the whole African states are all liberated.
When Guinea became independent, France withdrew every support and even dismantled services and infrastructure. Ghana went in there and gave them some loans. To some people, Ghana was asked to make too much sacrifices for the independence of other countries in Africa.
By 1964, Ghana's once promising economy was suffering. As the tide began to turn against Nkrumah, he began to use dictatorial tactics, taking over control of the country's newspapers and radio stations and declaring himself president for life.
He promises of improving human rights record, but when he was in power, those things were not fulfilled. And when the people demand for it, then it's like a crime against the government. So they may be imprisoned and some were even executed.
As Kwame Nkrumah's reign became unbearable, his opponents moved against him, orchestrating a coup d'etat while he was out of the country on a diplomatic mission.
By the time the coup d'etat came, this country was fed up with him. The country was densely hostile to the government. People couldn't breathe. People were choked. They couldn't express any views. People were scared of each other. It was really a terrible atmosphere.
The successful coup d'etat crushed Nkrumah's regime. Today, however, there is little evidence of Nkrumah's woeful fall from grace. A major boulevard and national museum bear his name. Visiting dignitaries pay tribute to his memory. And ironically, even leaders who opposed him credit Nkrumah with laying the foundation of Ghana's stable republic.
We try to have that kind of imagination that when I grow up, I would like to be a politician, I would like to rule like Kwame Nkrumah.
This country still survives on that generation of people who had education under Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah is the only name that is meaningful in our history since independence up to today.
Nkrumah was never able to return to his native land after the army seized power while he was out of the country, and he died in exile. For History Channel International, I'm Giselle Fernandez.